Have you ever wondered what a narcissist feels when the door finally closes, when the stage goes dark, and they are left alone with only their own reflection? They may walk through life with their head high, their words sharp, their charm intoxicating. But behind the performance, when no one is watching, there are nights they cannot escape. Nights when silence is louder than applause. Nights when even they cannot trick themselves. What every narcissist hides is not only regret for the people they've hurt, it's shame so heavy that even they cannot bear to name it. And perhaps you felt it too, the sting of being discarded, the confusion of being blamed for the very pain they caused. But tonight, we are not here to glorify their cruelty. We are here to uncover what lies beneath the mask they cling to so tightly. Because when you have been tangled in their world, you begin to believe that they are untouchable, immune to consequence, that their coldness is endless. Yet the truth, whispered in their loneliest hours, is different. Their regret hides behind pride. Their shame disguises itself as arrogance. And that secret is the one they pray you never find out, that the one thing they cannot endure is themselves. So stay with me. Let's walk into that hidden room, the one they guard with denial and distractions. I promise. What you'll discover there will not only expose their truth, it will help you understand why you felt so small in their presence, and why you were never as unworthy as they made you believe. If you've ever carried the wound of giving too much, of staying too long, of loving someone who only knew how to take, this space is yours. You are safe here. We are going to breathe through the ache together. We are going to look at the parts of them they could never show you, and in doing so, reclaim the parts of you that they tried to steal. And if along the way you feel something shift, if you find a piece of yourself you thought was lost, I ask you only one thing: stay connected. Subscribe, share, leave a small mark of your presence. Because what heals us most is not information, but the knowing that we are not alone. They will never admit it, but the moment you walked away, a shadow followed them. They may have laughed louder, posted brighter pictures, surrounded themselves with new faces to prove they were untouched. But when the lights dimmed and the noise faded, they remembered the way you once looked at them. Not with fear, not with pity, but with love they did not deserve. That memory is their punishment, because no matter how they spin the story, they know deep down they ruined something pure. The world sees their confidence, their endless ability to move on. But you and I both know that's only a mask stitched together with desperation. Inside, there is a wound they never show, the kind of wound that festers when you've burned every bridge and can't stop yourself from setting fire to the next one. Regret is not foreign to them. It just wears a disguise. It shows up in restless nights, in the gnawing emptiness that no new admirer can fill, in the unshakable fear that if someone truly saw them, they would walk away, just like you did. And shame is the ghost they cannot escape. It lives in their silence, in their frantic attempts to be admired, in the way they rewrite history to make themselves the victim. Shame whispers that they are unlovable. Shame tells them they will never be enough. So they roar louder, control tighter, wound deeper, because to sit still with shame would mean collapsing into the very truth they fear, that without the mask, they are nothing more than a child who was once unseen, unloved, unprotected. You've seen it, haven't you? In those fleeting moments when their eyes softened, when their cruelty paused, when something almost human slipped through. That was the crack in the armor. That was the regret and shame they try so hard to bury. You caught it, even if only for a second. And maybe it confused you, maybe it made you stay longer, because you thought you saw the real them. But listen closely. The real them is not the moment of softness or the moment of cruelty, it is the war between the two. And the tragedy is, they've chosen to let shame win, again and again. But here's the part you must never forget. Their shame is not yours to carry. Their regret is not your redemption. You were never put on this earth to heal the unhealed parts of someone who refuses to face themselves. The only reason their hidden pain feels so heavy on your chest is because you cared more than they ever could. And that says everything about you and nothing about them. So let me ask you this. What if their silence after you left is not strength but collapse? What if the mask they show the world is nothing but a shield against the regret they choke on in private? And what if your freedom is the one thing they will regret losing forever, even if they never say it aloud? Take a deep breath. Let those questions sit inside you. And know this: you were never powerless. The shame was never yours. The regret will never heal them. But your healing, that will free you. There's something they will never confess, not even to themselves. Every time they replay the past in their mind, they twist the story so they can be the hero. But no matter how many versions they create, there is always that one moment they cannot erase, the moment you stopped believing in them. That is the memory that returns in the quiet, the moment that haunts them when no one is there to applaud. They will scroll through old conversations, not because they miss you, but because they miss the way you once saw them. You were the mirror that reflected back a version of themselves they couldn't hold on to. You gave them love they could not keep, forgiveness they could not honor, patience they could not repay. And now, when they sit with their own emptiness, the echo of your presence becomes louder than their pride. This is the secret shame that corrodes their insides. They know they sabotaged the very thing they were starving for, but instead of facing that truth, they bury it under new distractions, new people, new chaos, new games. And yet, beneath all that noise, there is still that small, desperate voice inside them whispering, "Why did I do that? Why did I push them away?" You may never hear them admit it. They will never knock on your door and say, "I regret what I did to you." They are too afraid of exposure, too bound to their mask. But regret does not need words to exist. It shows up in the way their eyes drop when your name comes up. It shows up in the way they search for you in others, only to find that no one else carries the same depth. It shows up in the way they chase distraction after distraction, but still feel hollow in the end. And here's the part that hurts: you loved them enough to wish they could heal. You stayed longer than you should have because you saw the fragments of humanity hidden beneath the cruelty. But healing can never happen in someone who refuses to face their own shame. That's why their regret will always be secret, silent, suffocating. They cannot share it with the world, because that would mean finally admitting they are not who they pretend to be. And maybe you wonder, do they regret losing me? Do they regret breaking me? The truth is more complicated. They regret being exposed. They regret losing their source of admiration. They regret the emptiness that came after you left. But do they regret in the way you hoped? Number. Because regret requires humility, and humility requires facing the shame they run from. Still, know this: their story is not your cage. You are not defined by their inability to love. You are defined by the fact that you loved when it was hardest, and still had the courage to walk away. Their shame may consume them, but your healing is the doorway they can never block. So when you feel the urge to wonder how they're doing, when you catch yourself imagining their hidden regret, pause, take a breath, and remember, their silence does not mean freedom. Their mask does not mean peace. Their shame is their burden, and your healing is your gift. When you lay awake at night, wondering if they ever truly felt anything for you, I need you to hear this. Yes, they felt, but feelings for them are fleeting, slippery, like water in their hands. They wanted you, but not in the way you long to be wanted. They needed you, but only to patch the holes in their fragile sense of self. And when you were gone, the emptiness they feared most swallowed them whole again. Regret comes to them not as a sudden flood, but as a drip, a quiet drop in the silence, a flicker of your laugh in a crowded room, the ghost of your scent in someone else's sweater. At first, they push it away, covering it with arrogance, but the drip never stops. And over time, it carves into them. That is their hidden torment, the regret that never leaves. The shame that multiplies when they realize they destroy everything they touch. They'll never show you. Instead, they'll smile, flaunt, pretend as if they've upgraded. But when the mask slips, when no one's watching, they are haunted by the way you made them feel human, if only for a moment. And that's why they run so quickly to the next person, to avoid sitting in the truth of what they lost. But no matter how many faces they gather, none of them erase the one face they betrayed, yours. And here's where you need to be gentle with yourself. Their regret is not the same as your healing. Their shame will never be an apology. You could wait your whole life for their confession, but it would never come in the way you deserve. Because their greatest fear is not losing you, it is admitting they were wrong. And so they drown in silence, while you, if you choose, can rise. There's a cruel irony in their story. The very person they wounded the most is the only person who ever truly saw them. You held up the mirror they couldn't bear to look into. That's why they lash out. Why they tried to break you, because you reflected back the truth of who they are and who they could never be. And yet, this is your liberation. Their hidden shame is proof that you mattered. Their secret regret is the evidence that your love reached them, even if they could not hold it. And though they may never voice it, the weight of what they lost will walk beside them for the rest of their life. You, on the other hand, have a choice they do not. You can step out of their cycle. You can breathe without the weight of their mask pressing down on you. You can love again, freely, deeply, without fear that your kindness will be wasted. Because the truth is, your love was never wasted. It was a gift they could not keep, but one that still belongs to you. So the next time you wonder if they feel regret, if they feel shame, let that thought turn inward. Let it remind you that you were never unworthy. Let it remind you that their hidden torment is not your burden. And let it remind you, most of all, that you are free to live without pretending, free to love without fear, free to be the person they never had the courage to be. There is a silence that follows them everywhere, though they will never let you see it. It's the silence after the party ends, after the new romance loses its shine, after the world stops clapping. In that silence, they hear the truth they cannot escape, that they ruined something they secretly wished could last. That is the shame they carry like a shadow. They will try to outpace it. New faces, new flings, new distractions. But no matter how fast they run, shame always catches up. It shows up when their laughter feels forced, when admiration feels empty, when they lie awake staring at the ceiling, replaying the look in your eyes the day you finally saw through them. That look cut deeper than any insult could, because it told them their mask no longer worked. You knew. And that knowing is what they regret most. Sometimes they'll tell themselves you were too much, too sensitive, too demanding. They rewrite the story, because it's the only way they can live with themselves. But beneath the denial, there's a quiet ache that whispers, what if I was the one who wasn't enough? That whisper is their undoing, because for all their bravado, they cannot bear the thought that someone once loved them completely, and they squandered it. And you, sitting here now, may still feel the sting of their absence. You may feel tempted to imagine their regret as proof that you mattered, but your worth was never tied to their shame. You mattered because you loved deeply, because you gave when it hurt, because you stayed long enough to see what was hidden beneath their cruelty. Their regret is not your closure. Their shame is not your justice. Your closure is in the breath you take tonight, free from their games. Your justice is in the life you rebuild, brick by brick, without their shadow hovering over you. It's easy to think of them as unfeeling, to imagine they walk away without scars. But even the coldest hearts bleed in secret. The regret of a narcissist is not like yours. It doesn't soften them. It doesn't grow them. It corrodes them from the inside, like rust eating away at steel. And while they may never admit it, while they may never show it, the truth is this. The person who seemed untouchable is haunted every single day by the reflection they cannot escape. So the next time you wonder if they think of you, know this: they do. Not because they miss you in the way you hoped, but because losing you was a reminder of what they will never have. A love that was real. And while their shame will keep them chained, your healing is already unlocking the door. Every time you choose yourself, every time you refuse to chase what broke you, every time you breathe without them, you are stepping into the freedom they will never taste. There's a hidden cruelty in their regret, and it's this. They feel it, but they cannot transform it. Regret for them is not a lesson, it is a prison. They regret being exposed. They regret losing the hand that once held them steady. They regret the silence that now follows their name. But they do not regret enough to change. Because change would mean admitting the truth of their shame, and shame is the one mirror they refuse to face. That shame goes deeper than anything you ever saw. It is not just about losing you, it is about the story they've been running from their whole life. A story of never being enough, of being overlooked, of being unloved. That is the wound they bury under arrogance, the emptiness they cover with charm. And though you try to love them whole, no love can heal a wound someone refuses to expose. You may find yourself wondering late at night if they ever sit with the same heaviness you carry. And they do, but differently. For you, heaviness comes with tears, with release, with the slow rebuilding of your soul. For them, heaviness comes as panic, as rage, as the desperate search for another person to distract them from themselves. That is why they move on so quickly, not because you didn't matter, but because they cannot stand the sound of their own silence. And here is the part that may sting, but will set you free. Their regret is not a love letter. Their shame is not an apology. Even if they miss you, even if they ache in ways they can't admit, it is not the same as love. Love requires humility. Love requires facing your reflection without excuses. Love requires choosing you, over and over again. And they couldn't do it, but you can. You can choose yourself in ways they never could. You can sit in the silence and let it soften you instead of break you. You can carry your shame to the surface, look it in the eye, and release it. And every time you do, you are walking a path they will never have the courage to take. So when the thought creeps in, do they regret what they did? Do they feel the weight of it? Let the answer rest softly in your chest. Yes, they regret. Yes, they feel shame. But it is their secret, their torment, their prison. And you are not bound to it. You are free to walk forward, lighter, stronger, braver. Their hidden shame is not your story to carry. Their silent regret is not the closure you need. The closure is in this very moment, the breath you are taking right now, the decision to step out of their shadow and into your own light. There is a moment, though they'll never admit it, when they look back and realize the weight of what they lost. Not in public, not when they're wrapped in admiration or laughter, but in private when no one is watching. That's when the silence catches them. That's when your absence is louder than any presence in their life. They will remember the softness of your touch, the patience in your voice, the way you stayed when no one else would. And for a brief, piercing second, they will feel the kind of sorrow that could undo them. But instead of letting it break them open, they shove it deeper down, they choke on it, they hide it. Because to feel it fully would mean facing their own reflection, and they are terrified of what they would see. This is why their regret looks different from yours. Yours came with tears, with sleepless nights, with questions that tore your chest apart. Theirs comes as a flash of panic, a sudden anger, a restless urge to escape. Where you leaned into pain and grew, they run from it and stay the same. And though they may pretend they are untouched, the truth is that the ghost of you follows them into every room. You must understand this. Their shame is not a doorway to healing. It is a chain. It binds them to the same patterns, the same destruction, the same cycle they pulled you into. Their regret is not the seed of transformation. It is the poison they swallow daily, even as they smile. And so, while they are trapped in the endless loop of denial and distraction, you have something they do not. You have choice. You can decide that their regret is not the evidence you need. You can decide that their shame is not the story you carry. You can step outside the loop and write a different ending, one where your heart belongs to you again. Maybe you've been waiting for them to apologize, to admit the harm, to tell you that you were right all along. But waiting for that is like waiting for rain in a desert. It will never come, not in the way you need. And every moment you wait, you keep yourself thirsty for a well that has long been dry. So breathe, softly. Let the truth settle in you. They regret, they feel shame, but it is not enough to change them. And it never was your responsibility to be their savior. You were meant to love, yes, but you were never meant to lose yourself in the process. You can walk away now, lighter, knowing their hidden torment belongs to them. And you are free to build a life where love is not masked, where affection is not a weapon, where your heart is not taken for granted. They will tell themselves they are fine without you. They will laugh louder, smile wider, move faster. But behind that performance is the same silence they cannot outrun. It greets them in the early morning when the world is still. It waits for them in the pause between conversations. It lingers when the mask slips, when they are no longer the admired, but just a soul staring into emptiness. This silence is filled with regret they cannot voice. Not the kind of regret that softens or humbles, but the kind that burns from the inside out. They regret losing the person who saw them when others only glanced. They regret pushing away the one who offered patience when they least deserved it. And though they will bury it, deny it, distract themselves from it, the regret never leaves. It is their secret weight, their constant shadow. But shame is the companion they know too well. It's the quiet voice that reminds them of every hand they pushed away, every heart they wounded, every bridge they burned. And the tragedy is this: instead of facing shame, they weaponize it. They turn it outward, onto you, onto others, onto anyone who dares to love them. Because facing it directly would mean admitting that they are not the person they pretend to be. And you, tender-hearted one, were caught in that storm. You thought you could love them out of their shame, that your presence could soothe their regret. But now you know the only person who can heal them is the one they refuse to face, themselves. Their mask will always matter more than their truth. Their pride will always win over their humility. And so their regret and shame remain hidden, festering, never transforming. Here's what you must hold close. Their inability to love you well was never a reflection of your worth. Their hidden regret does not make you more valuable, and their shame does not make you responsible. You loved in a way they could not understand. You gave what they could not hold. You stayed when they were impossible to stay with. And that was never weakness. It was your strength. And though it hurts, though it still aches some nights, remember this: the very thing they hide, the regret and shame they bury, is proof that your love touched them. They may never say it, never admit it, never let the world see it, but you changed them. You reached them. Even if only for a moment, you showed them what it meant to be seen. But unlike them, you are not chained to the past. You can let go. You can heal. You can step into a life where love is not something you have to beg for, but something that flows naturally, freely, without fear. Their regret may keep them trapped, but your healing, it sets you free. What every narcissist hides, even from themselves, is that their deepest regret is not about you leaving, it's about the truth you left behind. You became the proof that they could be loved, and also the proof that they could destroy it. That contradiction eats away at them in ways they cannot control. They may look unbothered, untouchable, moving forward without hesitation. But when the night grows long, the truth comes back like a whisper they cannot silence. I lost the one who saw me. Shame coils around that whisper, tightening its grip. It tells them they will never measure up, never be enough, never hold on to what matters. That is why they search for distraction in 100 different faces. That is why they exaggerate their laughter, why they cling to their mask as if it's their only skin. Because if the mask falls, even for a moment, they are forced to confront the shame that has lived inside them since before you ever arrived. You, on the other hand, carried their shame as if it were your own. You asked yourself what was wrong with you, why you weren't enough, why they couldn't love you the way you loved them. But the truth is simple. Even if it's painful, their shame was never yours to bear. Their regret does not make you broken. It makes them human, flawed, unhealed, unwilling to face themselves. And while they live in that endless cycle, you have the power to step out of it. You have the power to look at your own wounds with honesty, to grieve, to heal, to rebuild. The pain you feel now is not your prison. It is your passage. It is proof that your heart is still alive, still capable of love, still capable of opening to something real. That is what they will never have. They can regret, yes. They can feel shame, yes. But they cannot transform it into growth, because that would require courage they do not possess. And so their life becomes a loop, while yours, if you choose, becomes a journey. And maybe one day, when they are alone with nothing but their own silence, they will realize that the person they spent so much energy trying to break was the very person who had the strength to walk away. That is their secret punishment, to know that you survived, to know that you grew, to know that you healed without them. So take another breath. Feel it expand in your chest. Their regret is theirs to carry. Their shame is theirs to drown in. But your healing, it is yours to live, yours to claim, yours to celebrate. There's a part of them that will always glance over their shoulder, searching for you in the crowd. Not because they want to find you, but because the memory of you lingers like a ghost they can't exorcise. You became a part of their story they cannot erase, no matter how hard they try to rewrite it. And the more they deny it, the heavier it grows inside them. Regret, for them, is not clean. It doesn't soften their edges or bring them clarity. It claws at them in fragments, your voice echoing in a quiet room. The kindness they once mocked, now missed. The patience they once drained, now irreplaceable. It hits them when they least expect it. When the mask slips and there is no one left to applaud, that's when they feel it most. Not during the chaos, but in the silence. Always in the silence. Shame, though, is what drives their every move. Shame is the reason they can't face the truth, the reason they need constant validation, the reason they hurt others before they themselves can be hurt. It tells them they are unworthy, and rather than sitting with that pain, they throw it onto everyone around them. You know this because you felt it. You carried wounds that were never yours, pain that never belonged to you. But here is where your story breaks away from theirs. You are not bound to their endless loop. You are not chained to denial. Your pain can transform. Your heartbreak can become the soil where something new grows. You are not condemned to repeat the cycle, because you have the courage to face what they cannot. It hurts, doesn't it? To realize that the person you gave everything to will never admit the truth. They will never send the words you long to hear. I regret it. I am ashamed. You mattered. And yet the absence of those words is your proof. Proof that their shame is too deep, too consuming, too heavy for them to ever hold out in the open. Proof that you were not wrong to walk away. And still, here is the gift hidden inside all of this. Their secret regret is a mirror, but not for them, for you. It reflects back the truth, that you were always worthy, always enough, always someone who brought more light than they knew how to handle. Their inability to hold it does not dim your light. It only exposes their darkness. So let them sit in their silence. Let them live with their hidden shame. That is their journey, not yours. You are free now. Free to build a life without the weight of their regret pressing down on you. Free to love again, without the shadow of their mask hovering over your heart. Free to remember that the love you gave was real even if they could not receive it. If you could see them now, behind closed doors, you'd notice something strange. The louder they boast, the quieter their soul becomes. The more they reach for new admirers, the more hollow they feel when the lights go out. They live in a constant tug of war between the regret of what they've lost and the shame of who they've become. And though they'd never let you see it, that war is exhausting them. Regret visits them in fragments, your laughter echoing in places they thought they'd erased you from, your kindness haunting them when they are treated with the same coldness they once gave to you. And in those moments, when the mask slips and no one else is around, they feel the weight of it all. But instead of owning it, they bury it deeper, pretending it doesn't exist. Because to admit regret would mean facing shame, and shame for them is unbearable. Shame tells them they are unworthy, that no matter how many people they charm, no matter how many masks they wear, They will never be loved for who they really are. This is why they lash out, why they control, why they destroy what they secretly wish they could keep. They believe that if someone saw them fully, they would leave. And when you finally did, that fear became reality. That is the truth they cannot bear to face. And here is where your freedom begins. Because while they hide from themselves, you can face your own reflection with honesty. You can grieve without shame. You can grow through the pain. You can walk into tomorrow without needing to pretend. That is your strength. The very strength they tried to convince you you didn't have. Maybe part of you still aches, still wonders if they will ever admit it, if they will ever whisper, "I'm sorry. I regret it. I am ashamed." But the truth is, you don't need their words to be free. Their silence already says enough. Their restless search already reveals the truth. Their hidden shame is proof that your love touched them, even if they couldn't hold it. So take a deep breath, right now. Feel it move through your body. Let it remind you of this. Their regret belongs to them. Their shame belongs to them. And your healing belongs to you. They will carry their hidden torment for the rest of their life. But you can walk away, lighter, freer, braver. You are not defined by what they could not give. You are defined by what you choose to reclaim. And with every step forward, you leave their mask, their shame, their regret, far behind you. One day, they may sit in a quiet room and feel the weight of it all crash against them, the people they've lost, the bridges they've burned, the love they could not hold. But instead of saying, "I was wrong," they will whisper to themselves, "They were weak. They didn't understand me." That is how they survive their shame. By rewriting the story, by turning their regret into blame. But beneath the rewriting, beneath the endless distraction, there is always a flicker of truth. They know what they've done. They know who they've hurt. They know what they've lost. And though they may never confess it, that knowing is their punishment. It walks beside them, pressing in during the quiet hours, reminding them of what they can never undo. For you, the temptation is to wonder, what if they finally wake up? What if they realize? What if they change? But waiting for that will only keep you tethered to their shadow. Because even if they regret, even if they feel shame, those emotions will not become the doorway to love. They will not soften the cruelty or undo the harm. They will only harden into the silence they live with. And here lies the beauty you may not see yet. You are not bound to that silence. You are not doomed to carry their shame. Your story does not end in their regret. It continues in your healing, in the choices you make now, in the freedom you step into when you stop asking, "Do they regret it?" and start asking, "How do I reclaim myself?" Their shame is a closed loop, circling endlessly. Your healing is a path forward, step by step, into a life where love is not masked, where tenderness is not a weapon, where your heart is not twisted into knots just to feel seen. You can choose that path. You already have, simply by listening, by facing the ache instead of hiding from it the way they do. So when the thought comes again, as it surely will, do they regret me? Do they feel shame? Let the answer be soft but firm. Yes, they do. But it will never be enough to heal them, and it will never be your job to fix them. Their secret torment is theirs to live with. Your healing is yours to claim, and in that truth, you will find your peace. Not in their apology, not in their regret, but in your ability to walk forward, free. There is a cruelty in the way they carry regret. You'll never see it, never hear it, never be granted the words you once longed for. They guard it, bury it, cover it with arrogance. Yet it leaks out in strange ways. A sudden stillness in their eyes when someone mentions your name. A bitterness in their laugh when a song plays that once belonged to both of you. A restless scrolling through their phone at 2 in the morning, searching for something that feels like the comfort you once gave without question. But regret alone does not change a soul. For them, it festers. It becomes another excuse, another layer of armor. Because to turn regret into growth, they would need to face shame. And shame is the one weight they cannot carry. It is heavier than anger, heavier than loneliness, heavier than loss. Shame whispers that they are unlovable, that they will always be abandoned, that if someone truly saw them, they would walk away. And when you finally did, that whisper became a scream. You may imagine their regret as something beautiful, like a quiet longing that makes them softer, kinder. But it isn't. Their regret is sharp. It cuts them, and instead of bleeding honestly, they fling the blade at anyone who dares to come close. That is why new lovers find themselves in the same storms you once weathered. That is why no one ever stays. Their shame poisons their regret, and the cycle begins again. But here is where you stand apart. Your pain, though heavy, can be carried with honesty. You can sit with it, cry with it, breathe through it, and in time your pain softens. It grows roots and sprouts into wisdom, into strength. into a tenderness that does not break you but remakes you. That is something they will never know. Their shame will keep them running in circles, while your healing will carry you forward into a new horizon. And when you wonder if they ever think of you, remember this: they do. Not because they miss you in the way you deserve, but because you remain the one mirror they cannot shatter. You are the reminder of what they lost, of the love they squandered, of the truth they cannot rewrite. And though they will never speak it, never show it, never admit it, their regret is real, their shame is real. But it belongs to them, not you. So breathe a little deeper now. Feel the space inside you widening. Their silence is not your punishment. Their hidden torment is not your responsibility. Their regret is not your closure. Your closure is in the way you keep going, in the way you refuse to shrink, in the way you choose, again and again, to live free. There is a quiet kind of justice in all of this. Not the loud justice of revenge, not the dramatic justice of a public downfall, but the kind that happens in silence, the kind no one sees but them. It is the justice of waking up every morning with a heart that cannot rest, a mind that will not stop replaying, a shame that whispers louder than any praise they receive. That is what they live with. That is what they hide. They pretend it doesn't matter, that you are just another chapter. But the truth is, you were the one who stayed long enough to see through them. You were the one who gave love without conditions, the one who made them feel, even for a moment, that maybe they could be more than their mask. Losing that is not something they can brush off, no matter how hard they try. It leaves a mark. It leaves a shadow. And though they will never admit it, they carry that shadow everywhere. But you, dear one, you don't have to carry it anymore. You don't need their hidden regret to validate your worth. You don't need their secret shame to prove that you mattered. The fact that you loved, that you gave, that you endured, already proves your strength. And the fact that you walked away, that you are here now breathing without them, proves your courage. Yes, they regret. Yes, they feel shame. But it will never free them, because they cannot face it. And yes, it hurts to know that the apology, the acknowledgement, the moment of truth you once prayed for will likely never come. But here is the truth that matters more. You don't need it. You don't need them to hand you closure. You can give it to yourself, and maybe that is the most powerful ending of all. That while they remain trapped in their cycle, you are free to step out. While they live in the prison of their own denial, you can walk forward with honesty. While their regret burns holes they can never mend, your healing becomes the light that guides you into a new life. So tonight, when the ache returns, when the questions whisper, remember this: they will always live with the shadow of what they lost. But you will live with the light of what you've reclaimed.